December 19, 1944. Versailles, France. Inside a cold, draft-filled operations room at SHAEF headquarters, the air smells of damp wool and cigarette smoke. Boots scrape softly against stone floors as officers move between map tables. Outside, winter presses against the windows. Inside, the war presses harder. A massive situation map dominates the room. Red arrows slash westward through the Ardennes. German armor, unseen for months, has broken the Allied front. At the center of the map, a small Belgian town is circled in thick pencil. Bastogne. General Dwight D. Eisenhower stands motionless, hands clasped behind his back. Supreme Commander, responsible for every arrow, every unit, every life represented by colored pins. Reports arrive steadily now, fragmented, urgent, grim. The 101st Airborne Division is surrounded, cut off, short on ammunition. Winter storms have grounded aircraft. Relief is days away if it comes at all. Then a voice breaks the quiet. General George S. Patton has been waiting for this moment, not for glory, but for permission. Eisenhower turns from the map. He knows what Patton is about to propose. He also knows the risk of saying yes. Because once the order is given, there is no pulling it back, only watching the clock and the snow and the road north toward Bastogne. The decision Eisenhower makes here will echo through the winter. By the autumn of 1944, the war in Western Europe appeared to be entering its final phase. Paris had been liberated in August. Brussels fell soon after. German forces were retreating toward their own borders, leaving burned bridges and shattered rail lines behind them. To many Allied commanders, it felt less like a pursuit and more like a race to Berlin. But beneath that confidence lay exhaustion. The Allied advance had outrun its supply lines. Fuel was rationed. Ammunition stocks were uneven. Divisions that had landed in Normandy only months earlier were worn thin by constant combat. Infantry replacements arrived with minimal training. Trucks clogged narrow French roads, and every gallon of gasoline was fought over at staff meetings. To the east, beyond the forests and rolling hills of the Ardennes, the German High Command watched carefully. Adolf Hitler saw an opportunity where the Allies saw a quiet sector. The Ardennes had been used before, in 1940, to bypass strong defenses. Now, in December 1944, it was lightly held again, considered unsuitable for large-scale armored operations in winter. Hitler ordered Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, the watch on the Rhine. The plan was audacious. German armored armies would smash through the Ardennes, cross the Meuse River, and drive toward Antwerp. The objective was not simply territory but fracture, to split British and American forces, capture critical supply ports, and force a negotiated peace in the West. On December 16, 1944, before dawn, German artillery opened fire along a 70-mile front. Snow fell heavily. Visibility dropped. American outposts were hit without warning. Entire regiments found themselves surrounded within hours. Communications failed. Roads clogged with refugees and retreating units. For Eisenhower, the reports arriving at SHAEF painted a picture not of a breakthrough, but of something far worse, a collapsing front. At the center of the growing bulge in the Allied lines sat a road junction, whose importance became clear only after the attack began. Bastogne. From that moment on, every decision would revolve around whether that town could be held or saved. Bastogne was not a fortress. It was a small Belgian town surrounded by forests and rolling farmland, its importance defined not by walls or terrain but by roads. 7 major highways converged there, linking the Ardennes to the Meuse River and beyond. In winter, when mud and snow turned side roads into traps, Bastogne became the key to movement. Whoever controlled it controlled the flow of men, fuel, and armor. When the German offensive erupted, Bastogne was lightly defended. Eisenhower's staff quickly recognized the danger. If the Germans captured the junction intact, Their armored columns could fan out in multiple directions, bypassing strongpoints and accelerating westward. The response had to be immediate. On December 18, the 101st Airborne Division, along with elements of the 10th Armored Division, was rushed south from its rest area near Reims. The paratroopers had not been expecting combat. Many lacked winter clothing. Some arrived without full ammunition loads. Artillery units were incomplete. Trucks carried men straight from billets into the snow. By December 20, German forces had closed the ring. The 101st Airborne was surrounded. Inside Bastogne, conditions deteriorated rapidly. Medical supplies ran low. Wounded men filled cellars and makeshift aid stations. Ammunition was rationed. German artillery pounded the town day and night, while infantry probes tested the perimeter. The weather grounded Allied aircraft, cutting off resupply and evacuation. Yet the line held. Eisenhower received daily situation reports that were increasingly blunt. Bastogne could not be relieved quickly by nearby units. The First Army was reeling. The Ninth Army was stretched. The northern routes were contested. Time, the most precious commodity, was slipping away. If Bastogne fell, the German advance would gain momentum, and the psychological impact alone could ripple across the entire front. Eisenhower now faced a choice that went beyond maps and doctrine. Saving the 101st Airborne meant committing forces already engaged elsewhere. It meant betting on speed in winter, on narrow roads under fire, and on a commander known for moving faster than plans allowed. That commander was George S. Patton, and he was already turning his army north. December 19, 1944. SHAEF Headquarters, Versailles. The conference room is crowded now. Senior commanders stand shoulder to shoulder around the map table. The Ardennes bulge has grown overnight. German spearheads are deeper than expected. Entire American units are missing or cut off. Bastogne sits at the center like a locked door under assault. Eisenhower listens more than he speaks. General Omar Bradley outlines the northern crisis. Field Marshal Montgomery discusses stabilizing the British sector. The conversation circles around containment, slowing the German advance, buying time, preventing a catastrophe. No one yet speaks of speed. Then Patton does. He states it plainly. His Third Army can pivot north, not in days, in hours. He has already issued preliminary movement orders. 3 divisions can be redirected through snow-covered roads toward Bastogne. The attack would begin within 48 hours. The room goes still. What Patton is proposing defies conventional planning. His army is oriented east, facing the Saar. Turning it 90 degrees in winter under combat conditions risks chaos. Supply columns would stretch. Flanks would be exposed. If the gamble fails, Eisenhower could lose his only fully mobile striking force in the south. Eisenhower does not respond immediately. He studies the map again. Bastogne, the ring around it tightening, the weather forecast more snow, more fog. He asks Patton one question, not whether it is dangerous, not whether it is risky, but whether it can be done. Patton answers without hesitation. Eisenhower knows this moment will define the battle, and perhaps the war. Trusting Patton means accepting uncertainty at a scale few commanders ever face, but doing nothing means watching Bastogne fall. Slowly Eisenhower nods. The order is given. Third Army will turn north. From that instant, the Battle of the Bulge stops being a German offensive and becomes a race against winter, distance, and time itself. The turn begins before dawn. On December 20, 1944, columns of the U.S. Third Army grind into motion under falling snow. Engines cough in the cold. Tracks bite into frozen roads. Infantry marches beside vehicles when fuel must be conserved. Direction signs are hastily turned. Units that had faced east toward Germany now point north, toward the sound of distant artillery. For Eisenhower, the battle is no longer abstract. Reports arrive hourly. He watches movement traces creep across the map, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. The plan exists only as long as speed holds. Every delay risks collapse. German resistance stiffens along the approach routes. Villages become choke points. Bridges are damaged or destroyed. Weather remains the enemy no one can outflank. Low clouds and snow deny air support, forcing Patton's men to fight without the advantage Allied armies had come to expect. Yet the advance continues. By December 23, the skies briefly clear. Allied aircraft roar overhead, dropping supplies into Bastogne and striking German positions along the relief corridor. Inside the town, the 101st Airborne sees parachutes blossom against the gray sky. Ammunition, medical kits, food, hope. Outside, 3rd Army units push forward yard by yard. The 4th Armored Division leads the drive. Its tanks punch through roadblocks, trade fire at close range, and press on without pause. Orders emphasize movement above all else. Bypassed resistance is left for follow-on forces. On December 26, near the village of Eisenhower, American tanks break through German lines. A narrow corridor opens. By afternoon, contact is made with the besieged paratroopers of the 101st Airborne. The encirclement is broken. At SHAEF, Eisenhower receives confirmation. The message is brief, factual, but its meaning is unmistakable. Bastogne has held, Patton has delivered. The immediate crisis has passed, but the consequences of this decision are only beginning to unfold. The relief of Bastogne did not end the Battle of the Bulge, but it changed its direction. German momentum slowed almost immediately. The failure to seize the road junction denied their armored forces freedom of movement. Fuel shortages worsened. Timetables collapsed. What had been planned as a swift, decisive blow became a grinding battle of attrition the German army could not sustain. For the 101st Airborne, the cost was heavy. Thousands of casualties. Frostbite rivaled combat wounds. Entire companies were reduced to fragments, yet the division had held long enough. Bastogne became a symbol not because it was flawless, but because it endured. For Eisenhower, the lesson was sharper and more personal. In post-battle assessments, he acknowledged that Patton's speed had been decisive. Not just the movement of tanks and infantry, but the willingness to act before certainty existed. Eisenhower did not suddenly adopt Patton's style. He never would. But Bastogne confirmed something he had long suspected. Patton was uniquely suited for moments when hesitation was more dangerous than error. Their relationship did not become warm, it became clearer. Eisenhower continued to restrain Patton when restraint was necessary. He continued to protect him when results mattered more than reputation. Bastogne strengthened that balance. Trust, once tested under winter fire, did not need to be spoken aloud. As the Ardennes fighting dragged into January 1945, the Allies regained the initiative. The German army would never again mount an offensive of that scale in the West. And at the center of Eisenhower's memory of that winter remained a single image, a circled town on a map, and the knowledge that one decision, made under snow and pressure, had saved an army and perhaps far more than that. In later years, Dwight D. Eisenhower rarely spoke in dramatic terms about Bastogne. He did not frame it as a miracle or as a moment of personal triumph. For him, it remained what war so often reduces itself to, a decision made with incomplete information, under unforgiving pressure, and carried by men who bore the consequences in the snow. Yet Bastogne revealed something essential about command in modern warfare. Technology mattered, logistics mattered, planning mattered, but in December 1944, none of those alone could save the 101st Airborne. What mattered most was the ability to recognize when the map demanded speed rather than perfection. Eisenhower understood that principle, even if it ran counter to his own instincts. He did not need Patton to be careful. He needed him to be fast. George Patton, for his part, did not win Bastogne by bravado or instinct alone. He succeeded because preparation met opportunity. His army had rehearsed movement. His staff had planned contingencies. When the moment came, confidence was not a gamble. It was the product of readiness. The rescue of Bastogne did not end the war. It did not erase the suffering of those who fought there. But it marked a turning point in how the Allied command understood itself. Trust could coexist with control. Risk could be managed without paralysis. Leadership could adapt without losing identity. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes, Eisenhower did not change who he was. He changed how much he was willing to trust the one man capable of moving faster than winter itself. And in doing so, he ensured that Bastogne would be remembered not as a defeat narrowly avoided, but as a testament to decision, discipline, and the weight of command when time is the enemy.